distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies.
Why do we have these backwards attitudes? Because these trained officers of the state and ruling class and the bootlickers that love them are truly fearful for their lives? Do you think it might have more to do with the decades of propagandizing and criminalizing whole ethnic groups or social classes of people that paints them as less than human in the eyes of most and therefore are seen as guilty from jump, regardless of the circumstances, and therefore justifiable in killing them without due process? I believe that the reason we don't see the systematizing of police brutality is because we've been socialized and manipulated by ruling class politicians to look elsewhere for fault instead of the victims of police brutality. And what we look for was their past criminal record, if any, in terms of the victims, or the way that they are dressed, or what was the perceived threat at the time, real or imagined. And this finding of fault in the victims stem from deflection from the real issue, where we should be thinking critically about how law enforcement handles people. By rote, we divert our gaze at how the ruling class manages society by embracing respectability politics. This is where we sermonize those who we perceive as being lesser than us, or in some cases ourselves, on how we should dress or conduct one's life, therefore blaming ourselves when the system and its agents fail to live up to being the thing we are supposed to trust. When a rape victim brings their incidents to private circles or public seeking justice, we blame the woman. How late was she out? What was she wearing? How drunk was she? Why was she bringing up an incident that occurred 3 decades ago? Wasn't she a stripper? A prostitute? Why was she hanging out with a group of men by herself to begin with? These kind of questions are not organic, nor do they stem from some kind of front porch wisdom reflecting common sense. I believe that they are designed to put the victim in a negative light as a way to take a cowardly retreat from challenging the idea that no one should fall prey to state violence or rape supported by patriarchy and male supremacy. So a month ago, the RZA, proclaiming that if only young black men wore suits and ties, then incidences of police brutality won't occur. The police won't be so scared of them. And while we're on the RZA, how many times was Martin Luther King beaten? What was he wearing? May I direct you to James Blake, who was tackled and arrested by detectives, supposedly being mistaken for another quote-unquote black man who was a suspect in a credit card sting that was taking place. We all saw the pics taken at the time of the incident. Blake was not sporting the thug uniform. John Feller, pulled over by an Ohio cop while driving his brother to a birthday party, and was told the reason he was stopped was because he made eye contact with the officer. Mr. Feller was in a suit. Chris Rock, who posted selfies on social media for each of the 3 times that he had been stopped by police officers within 2 months. No thug uniform. And finally, there's Dr. Henry Louis Gates, commonly also known as Skippy Gates. Okay, really Skip Gates, but I fucking call him Skippy. Harvard professor and documentarian arrested as a result of complaints that he was breaking into his own goddamn house in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But, as the story had it, he locked himself out of his home by accident, even after providing ID that he lived there. Dr. Gates was also lacking a thug ensemble. Let's look at some racial breakdown data on income and net worth gaps. Why? I tell you why. Do you think if people weren't going to church enough, their style of dress, or not eating enough, of their vegetables and a glass of milk at every meal, that it will have to do with crime in poor communities? Don't you think that with numbers like these, that it's poverty that pulls the trigger when it comes to crime? Not somebody's clothing or their appearance or the quote-unquote bad choices they make? My next episode will be about respectability politics versus reality. This is where we will be using a little bit of data to show us where poverty creates crime. Until then, this is the Garage of Thomas.